Good evening and welcome. My name is Imani Rupert Gordon. I am the Executive Director for Affinity Community Services. And Affinity is a social justice organization, and we work with Black LGBTQ women on the south side of Chicago. Super excited about our topic today. We're going to be telling you about the Blackprint. But before we get started, I just want to give a special shout out to Arifa. Arifa, thank you so much for being in the call booth today. Arifa had a house emergency and was able to take care of that and still keep her commitment and be here. Arifa, you are a superwoman. We appreciate you so much. Thank you. Remember, this is a call-in show, so if you have any questions or you want to hear yourself on television, go ahead and call in. We'd love to hear from you. And today I am meeting with one of my absolute favorite people. This is Anna Deshawn, president of E3 Radio, president and CEO of E3 Radio, and also board president of Affinity Community Services.
Yes, that's me.
Thanks so much for being here, Anna.
Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. So it's Pride Month. Tis the season.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, y'all. And I read this article that I thought was really interesting. So I read it from a couple different sources, but this dating app for women, recently conducted a survey. They're interested in being more thoughtful in their marketing, and so they do a lot of marketing around Pride events, and they decided to look into how interested people are, specifically LGBTQ women are, in Pride events. And what they found out was actually pretty interesting. They said 31% of LGBTQ women surveyed didn't feel like they felt comfortable or welcomed at Pride. 43% of bisexual women said that they didn't feel comfortable or welcome at Pride, and 53% of self-identified queer women reported that they don't feel comfortable or welcomed at Pride, which is a lot of folks. They also said that 74% of respondents said they live in towns or cities where Pride events are taking place, but 40% of those folks aren't planning to attend Pride, and 35% have never been to Pride at all. And basically, this is saying that many women don't feel like Pride is for them. And I actually want to hear your perspective. Is that a sentiment that you share, Anna?
No. Absolutely not. But I can see how a lot of women would. Mm-hmm. So I say that to say I've always wanted to go to Pride. I've always wanted to celebrate Pride. And I felt like it was always for me because I want to go. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Pride is marketed to us.
Yes.
Right? So I think that, white, cis, gay men have owned Pride celebrations. Mm-hmm. And I think that is whom they market to. And I think that is why I think these results are what they are from this particular survey, because you don't see women represented in the marketing for Pride events.
Right.
And living here in Chicago, we have one of the largest, longest Pride parades, running Pride parades. It's a huge party. And I think that there's just a piece of you that just wants to be involved. And then also, as Black folks, we've always had a Black portion at Pride. Mm-hmm. So we've always had our own enclave of tents and stages and performers and performances that we've always gone to. So even if I didn't want to stay at the parade, the mainstream parade, I always had a place I knew I could go. Right. So I think that's probably pieces of why I've always felt like I had a place at Pride. But I can absolutely see how women, especially those that responded to this particular survey, don't feel like Pride is for them.
I totally get that. I get that. Thank you. I was thinking about this because last year on CAN TV, we always do a Pride episode.
Absolutely.
We were talking about the LGBTQ movement, and I shared the first time I became aware of it. And it was actually, I was in college, and I was dating the first woman that I ever dated, and I was thinking about her, and I was also thinking that I had no idea what the LGBTQ movement, what it looked like, and I couldn't think of anything. And I was just wondering if maybe I knew, but I just wasn't recalling it. And I went home and I looked up a bunch of stuff, and I realized I didn't know anything at all. And also what had happened is when I looked up these things, it was, I didn't realize at the time just how white and male-centered that perspective was, sort of the first page that you click on, like what that looked like years ago when I looked into it. And it wasn't until years later that I became aware of, when I was able to read from different authors, when I was able to actually hear and meet people and hear people's experiences, that I recognized that, wow, there's a large part of us that are left out here. I hadn't heard of Marsha P. Johnson until much later, or Sylvia Rivera. I hadn't heard of, people of color, of women, specifically Black trans women, and the huge impact that these folks have had on our history. And I just hadn't, it was so unfortunate that even in the retelling of our history that that we're so absent from that. And I think that sort of adds to, if we're absent from our history, that can mean that we're also absent in our pride events. And I think that survey probably specifically was talking about this pride event, but not talking about sort of these other events that people have. There's a ton of stuff that happens Pride weekend and Pride month, so that people feel that all their identities are represented, like you'd mentioned. And I was wondering, what are some other things? You kind of talked about it before, but how do you celebrate your Pride? What does Pride Month look like for you?
Well, I think that when you speak about how you came to learn about Pride, Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, is that there's also this very huge economic class barrier, right? And so when we talk about trans women of color, then we're also talking about homelessness, youth experiencing housing instability in comparison to people who are making six figures, who love to enjoy Pride and want to enjoy it in a certain way. And so when you talk about that, and you talk about those that have written LGBTQ history in the past, it makes sense as to why some people are left out, and it's particularly those of color, because racism still plays a part even in communities that are underrepresented.
It does.
So there's no end to that particular fight, even within communities that experience discrimination from outside sources, right? So we still have battles to and our own demons to fight within this LGBTQ community that we are a part of, and I think that history is a big part of it. I think it's so interesting. This past week, Time Out Chicago actually published a really great piece. Kristen Kaza did an interview with Pat McComb. And, my wife picked it up at our job. Time Out Chicago's at our job. She picked up the magazine, opened it up, and saw them and started freaking out. It was so cute. But she's somebody who doesn't necessarily know all the things that Pat McComb and Executive Suites and Vera Washington did during their time to integrate some of the bars here in Chicago. Now, I'm a history buff. I'll go to the history, the Hall of Fame website, read up especially when I was a young lesbian. I wanted to know who these folks were. I had a desire to know what they did. I would go to the Hall of Fame celebration where people would get inducted, and I wanted to know what Chicago was like. Also, Tracy Bain has done a great job of documenting LGBTQ history here in Chicago and involving those of color and telling their stories, taking video, having transcripts, especially for those that have transitioned, right? So when we talk about Renee Ogletree, when we talk about Jackie Anderson, we talk about some of these folks who have made such huge impacts on what it is to be LGBTQ, Black, and in Chicago, the history that they have is invaluable. And it's here if we want to know it. But sometimes we don't even know where to find it. Right. So we're talking to y'all now. I would implore you to go pick up that Time Out Chicago magazine. It's free. Go on the web and check it out. It's fantastic. Pat telling her story on one-on-one interview, educating people about who she is. She wasn't just a party promoter, she was more than that. And there's more to our history than that. And I think those are the things that we have to remember to celebrate at Pride.
Yes. And that also, is reminding me, we have the Black Lesbian Archives, too, at Affinity right now. And on July 3rd, Pat McComb is going to be on a panel. You're going to be on that panel, too. I
am, and I'm excited and honored and all those amazing things.
Yes, come by. Come check it out. That's a great way to hear some of our history.
It is.
And see Affinity. And it's we have some really great, beautiful archives up, too, that we'd love to share with you.
Once you know your history, everything looks a little bit different. When you put your life into perspective in comparison to those who were not only facing racism from a country, right, this country in particular, but then also facing racism within their own LGBTQ community, where they were seeking refuge in some cases, and then they fought their ways through that too. I have so much respect for our elders and, our ancestors who've left us, because their fight was different than the fight that we have today, but it was so imperative, and they give us the opportunity to do the work that we're doing today, which I know we're going to be talking about in just a little bit, so I just want to tease a little bit about what Affinity has coming up with the Blackprint, but they laid the foundation for us to be able to do that work.
Yeah. We do want to get to that, so I don't want to, but we know that let's I love talking about this.
Me too.
But what do you think is missing from Pride?
What I miss from a Pride in Chicago in particular is that we don't do enough of just getting to know each other without the alcohol. We don't take the time to do networking, to do getting to know yous. I really appreciate what Brisa, Women of Women, is doing, where it's a non-alcoholic space and people are able to network and learn how to salsa, and there's an event for mature women to do that. And I think that more spaces like that are curated for that type of event, I think are really great. I also think that the things that Kristen Kaz is doing at her space, Reunion Chicago, where there's queer comedy during Pride Month, right? And there's these young queer comedians who have a platform to be funny, and to be funny without being heckled about their sexuality, gender identity.
Right.
And I think those types of things I would love to see more of. And they're on the outskirts, right? So lots of people don't even know that these things are happening. So I think it's on us to make sure that we're getting the word out and letting people know that there are alternatives. But I would love to see more of it being sponsored by those that sponsor Pride, right? Because those that are sponsoring Pride in Chicago have budgets, and money moves things.
It does.
Money makes things happen.
It does.
And there's some things that you do have to pay for so that people know what's going on. So, I mean, if there's something from Pride, I'd love to see more of that. We do plenty of party.
we do. So, when I think about what's missing from the Pride experience, I'm reminded, last year I wrote a question, and this is what I asked our guest last year. I said, I've been exploring alternative ways to celebrate and participate in Pride events. As an executive director, very often you create the vision for these events. Do you see Pride as social or educational, or both, or neither, or something else? And what does your community get from Pride events that you participate in? And that's something that's been on my mind a lot. And this year, I am so proud to announce that we're introducing the Blackprint. And the Blackprint is a plan to build the leadership capacity of Black LGBTQ plus women. This is a 4-part virtual leadership series, so that means you can check this out from anywhere that you have an internet connection, and it will take place every Thursday in July from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock Central Time. And we're going to have new panelists every week, and when you tune in live, you'll be able to ask questions of our expert panelists. And so we'll be looking at, how to start a grassroots organizing campaign, how to build your career around highlighting your identities. We talk about how to run successfully for political office and how to be a chief executive of an organization. And specifically, we're looking at the obstacles that Black LGBTQ women have to overcome to do these things successfully. We're so excited about we have some great panelists here that are really cool, and this is just going to be really great, and it's going to happen all in July, every Thursday in July, so come check it out with us. We're super, super excited.
I hope you're excited. The Blackprint. First off, let's just talk about the name. The Blackprint. It's like we are putting our stamp on a unique approach, our outline of how we see leadership. And I think Affinity in its history has cultivated some amazing leaders and has always wanted to emphasize that Black women, LGBTQ in leadership is important. And I think we're doing a great job of honoring what we've always held true and wanted to cultivate and bring it into like the 21st century times 10 with the whole webinar series that people can tune into, and it's going to be available on demand. So if folks can't attend live at 12 o'clock every Thursday in July, you can watch it later on, and it's going to be accessible for you for a couple of months afterwards even, as a reference point. And so it's going to be amazing.
We're excited, y'all. We're excited.
So tell me. So I get to ask the question.
Okay.
You've been working on the Blackprint really intimately. So
Yes.
what is your favorite part about the Blackprint?
Oh, goodness. Oh, wow. So there's a lot of things. The first, I actually really dig that it's free to everyone. So there's absolutely no charge. The other thing I'm really digging is that we're making a concerted effort to build the capacity of Black LGBTQ leadership. And I want to say that when we do the work to build up underrepresented identities, that actually helps everyone. And I want you to know that though it's always the goal of Affinity to build the leadership capacity, to build up Black LGBTQ women, we actually want to help build up everyone. And so this is open to everyone. We want everyone there. And when you tune in, you'll see things that are going to help you as well. We have to recognize, I know that when people hear the work that we do at Affinity, sometimes people hear that we're being exclusive. But what they don't recognize is that when we're working with the most marginalized populations, if we don't specify what we're actually doing, that we're actually working with underrepresented populations, these populations don't know that it's from them and for them. And so, when you look at, I used to work at a health center that served specifically LGBTQ folks. Now, at the time I was there, they served about 50% LGBTQ folks, but 50% of the people they served were not LGBTQ. And the reason is because when the part of your identity is in part of the privileged population, you know that anywhere you go, that you're going to feel welcome there. And that's the same thing that's happening at Affinity. Everyone is welcome. Of course, we have men that are part of Affinity. We have white people that are part of Affinity, and people of every race and ethnicity and gender. And those are all things that are important. And when we highlight that we specifically want to work with Black women, then Black women know that they belong here. And so I think that's my absolute favorite part, but I'm also pretty into our panelists too.
So that is what I was going to say. I think is my favorite part is the actual speakers that we've confirmed for the Blackprint. We've got my sister Charlene Carruthers kicking us off on the July 5th. If you don't know Charlene, Google. But she is the executive director of BYP 100, the first executive director. Black LGBTQ organizing, fierce singing sister. And so I'm excited about the insight that she's going to bring to organizing. She just released her first book. Been going really
coming
well.
out in August. Yeah, it's coming out.
Okay,
so close.
I already pre-ordered, so that's why it's on my mind.
Right.
Okay. And so that's really exciting. We have a sister who doesn't necessarily identify as LGBTQ, but she represents the disabled population, people who, experience ableism. And we always have to be conscious of those who are underrepresented. And I think it's beautiful because she started this whole hashtag that took off, right?
Yes.
This hashtag disability is so white, was that it?
Yep.
And so that is exciting. I also think it's really dope that we have like politicians coming on, right? The first Black politician who came out as bisexual.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that she was the first, but she recently came out. She's a congresswoman in Georgia.
We've got people
Renita, she's wonderful.
From all over the country joining us for this. And what's powerful about it is because it's online, we can engage people from all over the country. And when we talk about a nonprofit like Affinity that's working on a tight budget, having an in-person conference and asking individuals who also are working with tight budgets to travel, to pay for per diems, to be hosted somewhere, to provide food and beverage at a conference, a face-to-face conference, the costs easily add up. But having the opportunity to reach people where they are for free and having speakers that can come into an online platform from wherever they are and present and speak to hundreds and thousands of people at one time is invaluable. I mean, everybody should be hyped up about the Blackprint.
Yes.
The marketing is on point. The logo is amazing. I'm just excited about what we're starting to do with this project. And I think my favorite part is absolutely the speakers and the topics.
Yes.
I'm probably most excited about the executive power.
Oh, yeah?
Oh yeah, Mary Morton's on that one, right?
Mary Morton's on that one.
Hey.
And Kate Kendall from the executive director of NCLR, National Center for Lesbian Rights.
National Center for Lesbian Rights.
And she's retiring at the end of this year, so that position's going to be up. So it's a really good time to be an executive.
It is a really good time to be executive. When we talk about leadership, it can be in all types of forms. And I think that that's really what's powerful about this, is that sometimes people want to lead organizing, organize your thing, you want to protest, but sometimes you want to be an executive. And there's ways that you can lead in that and talk about economic power, right? And then our other one is...
like building your careers around, what do we call that? Economic power.
Organizing, economic, political, and executive.
Yes,
okay,
political.
I hit on all of them.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. But I just think that we're doing something that's really groundbreaking, so I'm just really excited about what we're doing.
You know, I want to mention too, you know, it is expensive to, you know, to have a conference that big, but, you know, I think that that's something that I'd like to see in Affinity's future too, you know. You know, you dress for the job you want, not for the job you have, you know, and so I think that is something that can be in our future. And, you know, to that end, you know, we're a small organization right now, but we're also paying our panelists too. And I think that's important to say because, you know, we are working with Black LGBTQ folks primarily, not exclusively, but primarily, and we want to make sure that we're taking something their way for doing something like this. You know, all of this is work. You know, like sharing the things that you learn, like this is all work. And so, again, dressing for the job you want, not for the job you have, and we want to role model the type of behavior we want to see. So we are paying everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I hope people are listening, calling in. The number is 312-738-1060. Call in if you got questions about the Blackprint.
Yeah.
Just want to say happy Pride, because we're happy, we proud.
We're happy. And we are proud. But you know what? Why don't you, we know that there are folks out there watching. Why don't you walk us through how to sign up for the Blackprint?
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Let's do that.
All right.
And remember, this is open to absolutely everyone. So we want you to sign up. It's free. Anna's going to show you how to sign up for it right now. If you go to our website, affinity95.org.
That's right. And you'll see this beautiful image for the Blackprint. Once you click on this,
it's a black print, if you will.
If you will.
Not a blueprint.
That's
it's a
right.
black print.
Exactly. We're so clever. And then you scroll down here on the page. You can't miss it. It says register today. Once you click on that link, it's actually going to take you to the registration page. And what's really lovely about the page is that it not only gives you a description about the virtual leadership series, but it lists all of the webinars that we're going to be hosting, the times, the dates, a little description, and then you can click on this view speakers piece and you can see who's speaking in that particular panel. Our lovely Imani Rupert Gordon is the moderator for all of them. And on the right hand side is where you fill in all of your data. You know you want to register for all of them. So just select all of the events with this toggle and you'll see that you're selected. You put in your data. It's just a few fields. You do this every day. You accept the terms and then you register. It is legitimately just that simple. So I encourage you all to sign up. It is free. I encourage you to share the information with your friends and your colleagues, just to visit our website at affinity95.org and click on that lovely image and read about what we're about. I know you just heard it, but maybe you want to read it again. And then just go register and be tuned in. You're going to get email reminders as the webinar approaches to give you just a little nudge so you don't forget that it's happening. And then you'll get a nudge when it's available on demand too. So that's how you register. Just as simple.
And this is a really great opportunity to hear from really amazing people that it might be otherwise pretty hard to hear from them and be able to ask folks exactly what it is you want to know. Like, I mean, I definitely want to hear from Charlene Carruthers about how she started a grassroots organizing campaign, you know, like what it took to do that. Right. Or from Melissa Thompson. Like, she went and created a hashtag that went viral, you know, and we know that what that means, what that means right now. And so we want to come out, you know, like, I mean, I'm excited. I think this is going to make my life better, you know, so hope you will as well.
Yeah. So that's, once again, it's called the Blackprint, every Thursday in July from 12 to 1. So the idea is you grab your lunch, you get around your computer, It's also accessible on your mobile device, so you can be absolutely anywhere you want to be and be able to access this content. And what's great is that you can ask your own questions. This is an interactive experience. You can ask your own questions. You can chat with others that are joining the broadcast. You can chat with the speakers. It's going to be an opportunity for you to, it's not just a one-way communication, it's a two-way communication. And I think that's the essence of how we grow as leaders.
Right. And remember, you can find the Blackprint on affinity95.org, and that's also where you can find out more information about us. Thank you so much again for watching. It's always a pleasure. Anna, you are just a gem. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for asking again. It's always good to join you.
Awesome. Appreciate it. So it's Friday night. It's date night. Go out, have fun. Remember, it's a dog-eat-dog world, not dog-eat-dog world. Okay? If you're trying to impress someone, just say it. Thanks again. Really appreciate you, and hope to see you at the Blackprint. Take care.